Welcome everybody to the first episode of the Dropping a Jewel show. Kind of going back and forth to the Truth Hour, dropping a jewel. It goes interchangeably. So what I'm going to talk about today is Trump's comments regarding the Blacks Build America statement. A lot of people are upset that Democrats, the foreign immigrants, the Republican Party, those conservative whites who were the loyal voting bloc for Trump, they're feeling that type of way about it. But the truth is the truth, and this also ties into a little bit of what I was discussing in a couple days ago when I was having a brief talk about the Civil War. So everybody pretty much knows about the Civil War. The Confederate States of America rebelling from the Union in order to form their own nation, and in response to that, destroying the Union so they can break it up, so they can have slavery, and then basically have their own set of ways and standards of living brought up upon them. Huge financing by Britain, huge financing by France. Lord Palmerston was very heavily key in these projects of insurrection, if you want to put it like that. But back to the Civil War. So 1860, 1861, the Confederate States of America is formed. They enter a rebellion against the Union in order to take over and destroy these United States. So in the first 2 years of the war, the Confederacy was actually defeating the Union. Huge. They were destroying them. They were winning left and right battles. Most of the generals, most of the military schools were in the South, so they had a huge advantage. And so in the North, a lot of people in the North didn't even want to fight. That's real talk. They did not want to fight. They did not even want to go to the war. They actually had a draft riots in that movie Gangs of New York. They talk about it and they show it. These poor whites and these immigrant whites and all these other northern whites who they claim are so valiant in the Civil War didn't want to even fight, and they destroyed and actually lynched a whole bunch of innocent free black people in response to them having to fight in this war. So they didn't want to have to fight the hard boys. They went after the softest targets they could find. So in 1863, while the whites were having to be forced to fight, there was a group of blacks who, since the beginning of the war, mind you, wanted to fight in the Civil War. Lincoln disbarred them because he said, hell no, if I have a whole bunch of niggas fighting in the war, then they'll have equal claim to this land. And we can't have that, especially in a system based upon white being on top, black being on the bottom. But in 1863, Lincoln got desperate. The Confederacy was losing left and right. Well, the Confederacy was winning. The Union was losing left and right. So he was forced to have blacks enter the war on the side of the Union. But the stipulation by the blacks was that if we fight in this war, Frederick Douglass, Martin Delany were at the head honcho of these negotiating tables. If we fight in this war, you must abolish slavery and you must give us equal stake or equal claim in this land. So that's why you heard the 40 acres and the mule, why we got the Voting Rights Act, why we got the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, basically abolition of slavery, equal protection under the law, and then the Voting Rights Act, actually suffrage, whatever if you want to call it that. So we turned the tide of the war. We basically won the Civil War and we saved an entire nation. So on one instance, Trump is right. We built the nation. But then even more valiantly, we freed ourselves. These were free black men volunteering to fight and slay and save and help their brothers who were in chains in the South and also in these border states, and also in the North as well, because there was still slaves, plantations up there as well. And so these free black men fought and freed their enslaved brothers, their enslaved wives, their enslaved mothers, and their enslaved children. And they won the war, got all of this stuff overturned. And when the war was over, you had a lot of people in the North who were heavily opposed to this. They knew they were opposed to this, but they knew they couldn't attack it because then you will have these blacks turning on the North and basically going against the Union. And they had just defeated the Confederacy. So if they could defeat the Confederacy, which you couldn't defeat the Confederacy, they could turn that in and then defeat the Union very easily. So they had to play strategically. So between 1865, after they killed Lincoln, up until 1877, there was a so-called brief period of prosperity. Blacks were getting elected to public office. We even had a black governor. We even had somebody in the secretary who was actually signing the paper money. So most of the money that was circulating at that time was signed by a black man. I think his name was B.K. Bruce. So, we were doing a lot of influential things. We had what was called good jobs, making good money at that time. But guess what? That period of prosperity only lasted 12 years because they saw where this was going. The people in the North, the power structure, the New York banking establishment who sold the slaves, mind you, and then came up with this so-called abolishment, which was just a con game so they could get this money back in a new form. So I digress, but in 1877, there was a highly contested election. Rutherford B. Hayes. So what ended up happening is a deal was struck between the North and the South. The deal was we will remove the federal troops because at that time the federal troops occupied the rebellious states so that the blacks could have protection because up until then a lot of these southern Confederate states, the people who were involved in Confederacy, they weren't tried for treason and hung or anything like that. The ones who died just died, and the ones who lived had to go back, and the South was decimated, this and that. So a deal was struck. If you throw the election for Rutherford B. Hayes, aka the North, we will remove the Union troops, and you can do with your niggas as you please. Once that happened, the black codes came in, Jim Crow came in, the massive industrial prison complex came in. Remember, the 13th Amendment says slavery is abolished unless punishment for a crime. So that was the old carrot and stick trick. Let's go, boy.
Yeah, I'm driving. Okay.
How you doing?
Good.
So yeah, so basically what you had basically was a whole turning back of the system. Remember now, we were supposed to get 40 acres in a mule. Remember now, after 1865, Lincoln was assassinated. The guy who came out right after Lincoln was Andrew Johnson, an old school Confederate Southerner who basically wanted to reverse all of the gains done by the blacks who had won the Civil War and basically put us back on the chains. That's why he was basically impeached and he should have been removed, but one vote stopped him from being removed. After that, he got backed off basically. So, make a long story short, the Freedmen's Bank was enacted. You had all these cities being cultivated. All this in the span of 12 years, I'm at you. There's a book called Up From Slavery that shows the greatness of what we did in just 12 years, bro. 12 years, and we just transformed the whole system. Now, the people in charge and a lot of those in the North, as well as those people in the South, are seeing all of this crap. And they're like, yo, if we allow this to continue, they won't even have, not only will they have an equal stake in this land, they'll take over this land. This will be the land that they not only built and saved, but now they run it. So the deal was made basically, and it was set up from 1865 all the way till 2019. A system was designed and set up to keep the niggas in their place basically. So where you have the black codes, 1865. Then you have the massive prison system after 1865. Once the blacks were freed, or they freed themselves because they won a civil war, and they fought and won their own freedom, and saved the whole entire nation. And then you have the Jim Crow being enacted, and then after 1865, you have the massive prison industrial complex. You have the breakup of the family system. You have the breakup of the whole entire structure of the bedrock of the community being done in, not to mention all the cities that were burnt down. There's over 50 to 60 cities, prosperous black cities all across the United States that were systematically destroyed, either from massive riots, either through policies done from the federal level all the way to the state and local level, all to destroy these cities, or gentrification processes being done, all in an effort to destroy any type of means or any type of prosperity done by these ex-slaves, if they want to be called that, but in essence, the actual rightful rulers of this nation, because they built it. If you build it, then it should belong to you. So you get a when you look at this 1865 to 2019 154-year experiment that's been going on, you can see exactly why, as a group, there has been a marginalization of these people, and why they haven't been able to do what it is that they have needed to be done, which is live in harmony, live in peace, without any incumbencies from the outside or from within, fomented by the outside. So, like I said, you had the Black Codes, Jim Crow, that engulfed the whole second half of the 19th century all the way to the first half of the 20th century. You had rising leaders coming up like Garvey and all these great, how can I say, great communicators and code breakers who were able to galvanize a massive amount of people for one unified collective front. So after they killed King in 68, they devised this a 50-year system in order to break that down. So what they did was they did economic castration, gentrification, the influence of drugs, negative propaganda, and an imbalance within the family structure. So they started giving set-asides and actually usurping roles designed for the men and giving it to the women. They knew that this would cause an imbalance in the community. And in doing so, they knew that they could then also give propaganda to influence this continued imbalance, and then to the detriment of the traditional black family structure. So what do I mean by that? You see in the 60s a whole set-aside welfare system designed specifically for the women. Then in the 70s, you see the feminist movement 1 year after they busted King after they killed King, and CIA, FBI, and then the doctors suffocated him in the hospital. All that's documented through the court case that proved that King was killed by a conspiracy in the 90s. There's a book called Orders to Kill by William Pepper. You can look all that up. So after the how can I say this? After the after they killed King, a year later they do the feminist movement. That caused a huge split in the civil rights movement, because a lot of these brainwashed by the system females decided to not fight for group collaboration. They started fighting for their own individual collective collaboration with the enemy's female, who historically and even now doesn't give a damn about you at all. And so by the 70s, they had already ushered that whole situation, and then they passed the abortion laws. They gave a whole set-aside, giving status, usurpation for black women over their own men. All done strategically. It's all to destroy the traditional black family. By the 80s, they also brought in the educational system, giving preferential treatment to the black women, saying that, hey, go for education, da-da-da. This ain't no good, da-da-da. And then at the same time, ushering in the crack era, so that once the economically castrated with the deindustrialization movement in the 70s, they then ushered in the crack era, CIA, of course, and in doing so, they locked a lot of these people up. And so when it was left for the women to be in the role that the men previously occupied, they were given two choices: fight for the men so that they can get out and they can maintain their role, or go for self in order to usurp his role and then become his role. So the propaganda agents say, you know what, we got something for y'all. come join us. So in the 80s, it was a resurgence of the women's lib movement. You started hearing music like, what have you done for me lately? You know what I'm saying? All this economic, what can we say? What is the term? What's the term? It's basically the term saying that his value is based upon a dollar amount and not upon the substance and the structure and the traditional God, mind, body, and soul that the black man represented. So when you see that whole shifting in the 70s and 80s, all done strategically, you see now where we are right now. 90s, 3 strikes and you're out, mandatory minimums, gentrification, then they're pushing this weirdo movement, aka LGBT, PZ, and then now in the 2000s and in the 2010s, you have and now going into the 2020s, you're now seeing the whole cultivation of this whole entire, how can we call it, game of destroying the traditional black family. And on top of that, this 154-year experiment in order to genocidally implode the ex-slaves. All done strategically, all set up in a way that it doesn't look like it's being done, but it's being done all strategically. And so now when Trump comes out, I'm tying this all in. When Trump comes out with a comment saying that blacks built America, after the Democrats said that immigrants built America, after whites thinking that they built America, this is throwing everything in a tailspin. Because when you're ushering that in, you're saying blacks built America. Now, who are these people who are cultivating the land? Who is the physical power, the horsepower that's building industry, building merchants, building ships, building the whole full set economy that gave America its wealth in order to be the number one nation that it is today, the global empire, the America First, the Great Society, the whole entire apparatus that gives America the legitimacy it gives today? It's black men. And then more importantly, the whole black family structure, black women as well, because you can't have the masculine without the feminine. You can't be a king without a queen. You can't be a god without a goddess. But it's important to put the principle in its right order because the men are in the lead. So you have to have them first when you're talking about a black society. So I say that to also emphasize the fact that there has been a consistent effort to denigrate the black man in order to denigrate the whole entire family structure. Because that's what I'm saying. If the man is not in the lead, the society and the family itself crumbles. That's real talk. That's why he's the number one target of the society. That's why everything since his birth has been a means to destroy him and poison his woman in order not to be with him. That's why you're seeing such an imbalance right now. You can hear it in the music. You feel me? Look at the most popular music right now in rap right now. Cardi B, Meg Thee Stallion, LMA, what else we gonna go? City Girls. The whole entire apparatus of the music is directly set up to basically say this nigga isn't shit and to put the female in the overseer role, basically. See, what they're trying to do right now is they're calling check right now. If this is chess, they're calling check right now. See, they have us in an overseer. They have the female in an overseer position. She still can get killed on at any moment if she's not on code. But they know that they can use her because she already has a feminist, white woman's feminist agenda in her mind. So she's already the helpmeet for the white power structure. That's why they're putting them in all these masculinized positions. Have you noticed? You see them in security guard roles, you see them in police department roles, you see them in judge roles, you see them in correctional officer roles. These are all done deliberately and strategically. Give them a more masculinized perspective, an overseer's position in order to basically continue, continue the slave system in a new form, basically. And it's very strategic. It's very strategic. That's why for the last, what can we say, from about 2015, 2016, they've deliberately skewed all means of entertainment in order to cultivate the women, and more specifically the black women. That's why you've been seeing Black Girl Magic. You've been seeing black women all over. That's the Little Mermaid. All this junk is done Machiavellianly. I saw it from a minute ago. They've been doing it for 4 years. The Me Too crap, the Time's Up junk, all of this is being done strategically so that they can now use The Shy, all of these shows, Power, all these major shows, Empire. You see all of these shows, Scandal, like all of it's being set up. From the music, the media, from the entertainment to the movies to social. It's a whole social, to probably the books, to even the colleges. You go to most of these HBCUs, it's 8-1, 8 women and 1 man, and 9 times out of 10, they form a band. How can I say this? They form a little what can I say? A little man-hating cult, if you want to put it like that. Not to be mean, but to be mean, because it's already being inbred to be like that. It's already being structured up to set up to be like that. So you see it, all strategically done though, because once they destroy the man, then they're gonna turn on the female, and then there'll be no protection for her because the man was the protection. So, yeah. And let me go right back to what Trump said. Trump's saying blacks built America. By him just admitting that, the Democrats are upset because they want to project that lie that the immigrants built America. No. The immigrants benefited from the fact that the blacks built the wealth of the nation that gave them the right to even be over here in the first place. Because there was nothing here before the blacks cultivated the land. There was nothing here before the blacks in general, if you want to go from a historical perspective, since we are the first people to circumnavigate the globe, and we are on every bit of inch of continent that exists on this planet right now. And if you want to go deeper, we're the rightful rulers of the planet. We built every major civilization. We're the first and the aboriginal of every major set of people that exist on this planet. And that's real talk. And everybody who's of power and who's of the upper echelon knows this stuff. That's why they've been so strategically doing things that will make sure that this information doesn't get out, and that if the information does get out, it's seen as Afrocentric, or it's seen as discredited because it's just some lowly nigga saying some shit like that. All done strategically, bro. All done strategically. It's just like saying you're a conspiracy theorist. It's a means of discrediting you by putting you in a label and in a box so that your truth gets marginalized, gets thrown by the wayside. So, back to the Trump's comment as far as him saying, we built America. Yeah, we built America. Blacks built America. They built the wealth of America. And why whites are upset is because if you're telling the truth about blacks building America, that means that they have an equal stake in the land, and that this land actually belongs to them and not to white people themselves. You know what I'm saying? When you're admitting that they built this, that means that it belongs to them. So you're already, you know, what can I say? You're already destroying the myth by just uttering a statement like that. You see what I'm saying? So that's gonna get the white poor and middle class base upset, because the majority of them voted for Trump, and they're upset about that because they're like, yo, you're supposed to be on code. That's an off code statement that you're making, and that's truth. But then from a larger and from a more strategic standpoint, it's also setting the stage for a black rebirth, a black togetherness, by saying, you know what, we did build this. This does belong to us. It's time for us to take it over. You know what I'm saying? Those seeds are already being planted. They've been planted before Trump said it. But just for him to say it on a national level, he's doing it strategically. He knows he wants to get a couple black votes so that he can shore up his 2020 bid. And, you know, majority of them will go for it, of course, because you're a racist for nothing, and you're just saying that strategically, Machiavellianly. But it's just interesting that he says it at this moment, because, you know, he sees that the Democratic Party is floundering. They're not even using their most loyal voting bloc, which is the black vote. Black people have been the most loyal voting bloc since they got the right to vote on a national scale with the Voting Rights Act, Civil Rights Act of 1964, 1965. So since that time period, we've been voting for them consistently. Now, we haven't been making a code on code demand that specifically was for us since we got that right to vote. And now in this election, you're starting to see that for the very first time with this ADOS Tangibles 2020 movement, which says, no, we're not going to vote for you just because you threw a couple black candidates up there or just because you want to pander to us right now. No. If we're going to give you our vote, you are going to have to give us tangibles, economic resources. All of this can be paid for by the Federal Reserve. So don't let them lie to you and be like, oh, there's no money. The Federal Reserve pumps out money all the time for these banksters. The banksters got trillions of dollars when they needed it, when they blew up the whole world economy. No money for the masses, no money for Main Street, the people who actually needed it, but money for the billionaire class who destroyed the economy and basically was, very instrumental in setting up this stage that gave us Obama and a Trump. So when you look at it from this perspective, that the Democrats are just refusing to do anything for us, all of them, and they might have some social security policies or some minimum wage hikes, but that doesn't specifically benefit the most loyal voting bloc. In a general, indirect sense, it benefits us, but we need something directly. Now, they won't do it because they're still trying to pander to their white base, but their white base isn't even their most loyal voting bloc. It's us. It's probably not even their most numerous. It's us as well. You know what I'm saying? So it's just it's very funny right now when you see the whole political landscape. And now Trump is watching this and he wants to be like, all right, I can co-opt this and try to finesse it, but he's not going to get tangibles because that will undercut his own white voting bloc as well. So, but just from a truth standpoint, blacks did build America. And they are the rightful rulers of America. And from a more geopolitical base, they're the rightful rulers of the planet. Straight up. They built every major civilization. If they were organized in a collective strike, 2 billion of us on the planet, they would have the planet. That's real talk. They would have the planet right now in hand if they actually put each other's mindset on a family, collectivized, unified. We need to focus on each other mindset, not an individual. I gotta go get it when I gotta go get it. How I gotta go get it, no matter what mindset. It would already be in our hands. You can see it right now. Right now, the crown, as far as who's gonna rule the world in the next 100 years, is up for grabs right now. Brad and Becky, aka the white group, think they're gonna still run it again. The Chinese thinks that they're the new kids on the block, think they can usurp it. But there's a dark horse candidate, the blacks. See, right now, we're in a prime position right now. We haven't even got started yet. You see, everybody is like super angst and depressed. Oh my God, what can we do? And all this other stupid crap. Bro, we haven't even gotten started yet. We haven't even built an organization yet. We haven't even done international trade on a mass scale yet with our own people yet. We haven't even built a strategic military force that could protect every single black person on the planet yet. If we actually did a couple of these things, we have it on hand already. It's already crazy. We would have this whole situation in our hands already. We haven't even gotten started yet, and they're already shaking in their boots. You saw the Amber Geier case. We got on code, and guess what? We had her guilty dead to rights. If not for that coon family and that coon judge, Tammy the Mammy, or whatever the heck y'all want to call her, she's a freaking disgrace. She should be in jail for that crap. Because that's like aiding and abetting, technically, honestly. So, yeah, she would have been guilty. She might have gotten the death penalty. And if you see this ADOS movement, this reparations movement, the Tangibles 2020 movement, Us being on code has literally shaken the Democratic Party. If you look at this from a 2020 to beyond standpoint, honestly, I'm being real with you. Once the Democrats fall in 2020, once they lose again, and their party is scattered to the winds like the Whig Party was before them, or the Know Nothing parties, a vacuum will be opened up. I'm talking about us creating an independent black political party to fill that vacuum. And I guarantee you, I'm telling you right now, I guarantee you, if we do that, we will have people elected to office that will serve our interests. And we won't be the only group that will support us. You know what I'm saying? On certain economic issues, you'll see other liberal radical groups support us on economic issues. That's real. On black issues, yeah, we might not get everything we need to get, but we'll get enough of things done on code with our own party that will be able to get more things done on a local and state level. Now, on a national level, we might need to build a pack, a quick economic pack with a couple of the of other, you know, radical, economically inclined people. Now, we're not building an alliance and not building a friendship. It's just a couple things just to get things passed in the House and in the Senate, and maybe even at the presidential level. And all this can be done. So, let me just, in conclusion, wrap this all up. Basically, Trump's comments on blacks building America was 100% truth. Blacks built the nation. Blacks saved the nation. Blacks have been the bedrock of the nation. We've been the moral compass of the nation. And we are owed economic justice, political justice, social justice, criminal justice, and just from a God sense, just an overall truth justice, honestly, and a military justice as well. Because things need to be put in hand. Certain groups need to be handled. And that's real talk. I got to just speak it how it is, straight up. So, just speaking on some real shit, all this needs to be done, man. And that's real. And I see it turning in that direction, because we're not going to stop. We're not going to stop. It's already a wave going right now. You can feel it. Everybody feeling it right now. It's a wave. The people may not peep it because they all got that vision, but I see it. It's a wave. In the next 50 years, I'm telling you, with enough black people on code, pushing the way they need to be pushing, we will be in a prime position to take this whole entire world. If we stay on code for 50 years. 50 years on code, we'll be able to rebuild the family. We'll counter gentrification. We'll start international trade. We'll have a protection unit. We'll have a global military unit. We'll have a global resource economic, basically triangle unit that will encompass and protect and provide for every single black person on the planet. And we'll have a black ideology. Now, the ones who are off code, they're going to be handled. So that's already going to be out of the way. If you're going to be the white man's nigga, then you're going to have to go, bro. We don't got no time for that. Especially the females, bro. Because it's been 50 years of them being able to do what they want to do. Strategically done by the system so that the family structure will be broken down. But now we're out of that. We're out of that 50-year cycle now. We're in a new paradigm right now. And the ones who can't see it are the ones who don't care, the ones who don't want to do anything. Yeah, y'all already are cannon fodder already. You just don't know it yet. But the ones who give a damn, females, males, the young boys, the elders, yeah, you're going to see your ideology, your way of life, your soul, your mind, your body. It's going to carry into the next generation. It's going to carry into the generation after that. And you will see a more peaceful world for people who look like us. And that's real. And those people will be provided for as well. And when it comes, and just one more, let me just give it one more take. When they talk about reparations and tangibles 2020, how this thing will be paid for will be paid by the Federal Reserve. They keep telling you, where's the money going to come from? The Federal Reserve prints money all the time for these banks. All of the time. If you just nationalize the Federal Reserve and make it a national bank that serves the interests of the people, that can pay for the people who built the nation and who saved the nation, and that's us, the ADOS people, black people, basically. And then you can see real trade with other blacks worldwide, because we'll have an economic base to do that. And once we get the economics, we got to get the military, because the first thing that's gonna happen is the Black Wall Street destruction all over again. They'll do it again. We already know. We don't trust you. We don't trust Brad and Becky and all their apparatus groups as well. So you already know what the game is. So that's straight up and down. And yeah. So shout out to everybody who pushing, and I'm out. Welcome to the Drop a Jewel first show, Truth Hour. I'll see y'all next time.